let's just talk a little bit about the Brian Ferentz stuff. So it was announced that Brian Ferentz will not return after this year. He's going to finish out the year as the offensive coordinator at Iowa. And this is something that had been building. We talked about the drive to 325 a lot and having to average 25 points per game, having to be bowl eligible, or 7 wins actually, but having to do all the things in his contract, having to take the pay cut this year, all that type of stuff. Before we even say anything, I do want to give Brian some credit for the way that he handled everything when it was announced. The statement I thought was very good. I'll read it right now. It just says, for the vast majority of my adult life, I've had the privilege to represent the University of Iowa as a football player and as a coach. I've always considered and will always consider it an honor. In that time, my singular goal has been to contribute to the football team's success. As long as I'm employed by the University of Iowa, my stated goal will not change. My priority will continue to be the well-being of our students and the success of our team. And we did an Iowa game earlier this year. We had a chance to talk to Brian amidst everything. It was the game that Cade McNamara ends up going down and eventually has to take over. They beat Michigan State. And this is a team that's still very much in prime position to potentially win the Big Ten West. It just felt like it was time for a change. And I think deep down, Brian even understands that. I know that he wanted to continue. That's not a question of whether or not he wanted this to continue going the way that it had. But I think deep down he knows, and I'm sure it's a difficult decision for Kirk Ferentz. I'm sure it's a difficult decision for the school overall. But it seems like they want to at least try to take it in a different direction and see what it looks like from here.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And I think the timing of it, them making that decision now rather than at the end of the season, to me means only one thing. They just wanted to make it clear as they are talking to recruits, as they think about transfer portal additions next year, all of those things, they needed to make it clear that they are going to be going in a different direction offensively, because without it, you're going to have a hard time. They would have a hard time attracting some high level, particularly skilled players on offense, to try to add to their roster. So I think that's probably why the timing of it now is just to kind of give some clarity for the future.
Yeah. And it'll be interesting what they look like. Obviously, they've had some weapons, and it leads us into our previews for Week 10 because they're first up on Peacock. You've got Iowa and Northwestern at Wrigley Field. You've got one side at Northwestern coming off a massive win, as we talked about this past week against Maryland. You've got the other side in Iowa coming off a bye week. Maybe that gave Deacon Hill a chance to really feel a little bit better moving forward in this offense. Northwestern is averaging 23 points per game in their last 5 games. This led them to a 3-2 record. This is 3:30 p.m. Eastern on Peacock. So curious to see what Iowa looks like out of this bye week, especially now given the news we just talked about.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, we said this on the air the other night, and it's normally used in reference to basketball, but it works in football too. Defense travels, right? Yeah. So whether they're playing in Evanston or Wrigley Field or wherever, Iowa's defense is going to show up. We know that. Their punter is going to show up. We know that. So if you're going to beat them, you're going to have to find a way to score. And it may not have to be a lot, but you have to score some points. But their defense is going to hold them in every game, and so it'll be interesting to see if they get a little bit more production out of Deacon Hill and moving forward offensively. But Northwestern, I mean, my goodness, they're just playing really good football right now. And you mentioned how many points they're averaging. That's like prolific offense in the Big Ten West. So yeah. I mean, they're setting a new standard for the West.
No question about it. Again, that's 3:30 p.m. Eastern on Peacock. All the action you can find over there.